Hi, I'm Ruthie, owner of Defy the Status Quo, and you're listening to an episode of the Defiant Business Podcast, your Monday through Friday 10-minute shot of business knowledge. So let's get to it. Today, I was with a group of some fellow creatives and we were talking about pitching. And I was actually able to add to the conversation by talking about something I address in the book I'm working on. We were talking about networking events and kind of the feel of them and how to determine which ones are good for you. And I brought up the types of people that you meet at networking events. Now, most people think that there's three types of attendees that you watch out for, but I actually think that there's a fourth that you should be paying attention to. So let's talk about some of the typical, the top first three that most people expect. So the first one that's pretty easy is prospective clients. When you go to an event, you're hoping to meet prospective clients. That's a given. So what I would advise is that before you go, you make sure that you know who your prospective clients are. So this is you building your buyer persona. It's the same person, right? The avatar, but it's the same person that you would write your blog posts for, that you would create your website for, that your emails are geared towards. It's not that other types of people wouldn't become your customer or your client, but you use this avatar to speak to what you would consider the perfect client or perfect customer. So know who that person is before you go. Why is this important? Because you run into if you're not selling a product, let me start with that. If you're not selling a product, then you run into the issue of trying to make your services fit the person that you're talking to. So in my case, Defy the Status Quo doesn't offer standalone social media services. And I've got my reasons for that, which could be a whole nother podcast episode. So I won't go into them now, but we don't offer that. But if somebody asks me, hey, Ruthie, do you guys do social media, management? Could we do it? Yes. Do I want us to do it? No. And I am clear on that now. But let's say a year ago or 6 months ago, even, because I was trying to be accommodating, I would say, oh, yeah, we could totally do that before I got clear on myself and the sorts of clients that I wanted. So you want to make sure that these prospective clients are actually a good fit instead of you trying to make your services fit them. That's not a good place for your business, and it kind of creates multiple heads that you have to manage. The second type of people that you meet at networking events, people who aren't your clients, right? And so you're expecting those to be the majority of the attendees, right? The people who just aren't a good fit for you and your business. And this happens. So there's a few different categories or subcategories that these people can fall into, these people who aren't your clients. The one that you really have to watch out for is that the bad networkers. There are some people who just go to try and make a sale. And yes, you're like, Ruthie, it's a networking event. And I'm like, yes, I know. I know. But networking is about building relationships. I don't want to sound corny, but the best networkers, the best business people I know who network as part of their business and their marketing strategies go to build relationships. They're not going to sell. So like the best networkers, maybe they're selling a software. And instead of trying to convince me that I need that software, they would be the first to tell me, hey, Ruthie, this software, it's actually not a good fit for you. But you could help me, Ruthie. This would be the sort of person I'm looking for. So they're honest with me. And because they're honest with me, I trust them. Should my business reach a level, maybe it's just that my business isn't mature enough. Should my business reach a level, they're going to be the first ones I think of because now I trust them. They told me it wasn't a good fit right now. So those are the best networkers, the ones that build that relationship and develop that trust. And those are the people you want to stay in contact with. But the bad networkers just want to make the sale. They may be the person who gives you their card multiple times and like doesn't remember your name. They might interrupt you during your pitch. I've had that happen before. But and then there are just some people who just aren't a good fit. The end. Like there's nothing wrong with them, but they're not a good fit. They may fall into the third category, though, which is your recommenders or your referrers, but that's not quite as easy to say. So the thing about recommenders is that you typically don't know that they are a recommender. So they may have fallen into that first bucket of people where they are, just not a good fit for your services or something like that. But they contact you later and say, "Hey, I've got somebody who is asking about X service. I know that you do that. Should I introduce you?" And so then they become, instead of a person who's not a good fit for your business, they become a recommender. And so that's always great, but you can't always know who those people are. So that's why it's nice to stay in touch, connect on social media, do things like that. So, Christopher, can you go, please? So that's part of my reality. I have 4 children, in case you didn't know, and we just got interrupted by one of them. But marshaling along. So the fourth one, that's right. He interrupted you guys, interrupted us on a cliffhanger. Oh my goodness. Connectors are your fourth type. They're your fourth type of people you'll find at a networking event. And the connectors are, next to prospective clients, of course, I think that connectors are the most valuable. Unlike recommenders, they are typically easy to identify when you know what you're looking for. When you know what you're looking for, they can be very easy to identify, especially if you go to an event where people get introduced. That actually works out really well. So connectors are typically event organizers. And that's what makes them the connector. If they organize the event, then they typically know all of the regular attendees to that event. They likely know other event organizers in a particular area, and they could connect you with them as well. They also might be event sponsors. Companies who sponsor events typically don't just sponsor one, they typically sponsor multiple. So now they've positioned themselves to know many different businesses in a given area. And of course, that area could be very large depending on the size of the business. So event sponsors could also be a type of connector that you're looking for. And then also look at attendees who are at an event who organize other events, or attendees who head up organizations that hold a lot of events. So the value here is that this is more along the business development side of things. So this isn't your sales and your marketing necessarily. When you connect with a connector and they, that you've got a good relationship with them, then they are more likely to recommend you to the businesses that they know. But like I said, with a recommender, it's hard to identify who's going to actually refer you because you don't know who they're going to run into. With a connector, you typically have a good idea of the sorts of people that they associate themselves with and the sorts of people who attend their events, and then the sorts of events that the connector themselves also attend. So the connector, I feel, is almost a better type relationship to have because business development is about strategic partnerships. So it's to your benefit to develop relationships with connectors when possible because they have more potential to refer business to you. So there's multiple types of connectors, of course. And like I mentioned a few, they're the kinds that organize events, but they also might be industry influencers or local influencers. And I hate to use that word in a way because it's, kind of getting watered down. And I don't mean the Instagram type influencer, especially when you consider B2B, right? Like, so maybe they, write for Forbes or they do a lot of interviews in your industry. So that could also be another type of connector to look out for. But keep in mind, 4 types of people. And when you're looking at an event, you have to consider what type of person is going to attend and then decide on what your goal is for that networking event. I promise you, though, for most events, you're not going to leave with a pocket full of clients. So build that relationship and keep up on social media. Okay, so this has been an episode of the Defiant Business Podcast. I'm Ruthie, owner of Defy the Status Quo. Thank you for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you here next time.